Hello and welcome to the Business Talk podcast. I'm your host Deepak. Our guest today needs no introduction as his sustained dedication to research, teaching and consulting in the field of marketing is truly exceptional. Born on May 27, 1931, Dr. Kotler celebrated his 93rd birthday this year. Allow me to welcome the world's foremost authority on marketing, Dr. PhilipKotler, Professor Emeritus and S.C. Johnson and Son Distinguished Professor of International Marketing at the Kellogg School of Management, Northwestern University. Dr. Kotler, we are thrilled and honored to have you with us today.
It's my pleasure, Deepak, and thank you for inviting me to have this opportunity to talk about a favorite idea of mine and actually my philosophy, which is called humanism.
Yeah. So, Dr. Kotler, who is a humanist?
Well, a humanist would tend to be a person who is self-conscious about being a humanist. So what does it mean to use that language? Well, it goes back really to ancient Greece and Rome, where much of the great philosophers and speakers talked about what does it mean to be human. Now, it really got into the dark after a while in the medieval period until the appearance of the Renaissance, which was a celebration of mankind's power to love art, to love other people, and so on. And then the Renaissance moved into the period of the Enlightenment. And that was, those were the basics of the start of humanism. And humanism, in a sense, could be best understood as a reaction to two things. One is monarchy, that the best countries are ruled by a king. So you got to get over that idea that you want to vote for a king and give him or her absolute power over your life and the life of your friends and so on. And the other idea is theology. Namely, Europe was pretty much run by a particular philosophy of theology, which was Christianity. And just like every country has its religions, and humanists are not against religion or against the belief systems, but they're skeptical. They respect these things. Sometimes they say, I respect the myths, as if these are, all right, let's take Christianity, for example. A humanist does not believe in the divinity of Christ. They believe that Christ was a good person and a loving person and had a loving philosophy. But they don't believe that there are miracles. They don't believe in resurrection. They don't believe in original sin, that there's a God who wants to punish people who don't follow him. It's, like a lot of things laden with Christianity is offensive to the humanist. The humanist says, I know what I see and feel in my daily lives, and I want to have the best relationships I can have with other people. And so I would say another way to know who's the humanist is observe the person and see how that person responds to other people. If this is a person who's going to tearing, like let's say there's a certain politician I know who's tearing everyone apart. He can't say a good word about anyone. He can't be a humanist. And you can spot another person who is just very gracious, not only saying good things about people, but even saying more than you want to hear about how good they are. So I hope that answers your question about the sources of humanism and the kind of people who will be spotted to be humanists.
Your book, My Life as a Humanist, offers a unique perspective on humanism. Can you start by sharing what inspired you to write this book?
Well, I grew up as a person interested in what is called the common good. Of course, everyone grows up interested in the family good, and their city's good and their nation's good. But I somehow looked around and I saw good people. I saw people who were rich. I saw people who were very poor. And I said to myself, I want to work on a discipline that deals with answering the questions that we need to answer to have more common good. So it seemed to me economics must be a big part of the answer, because everyone needs money, everyone works hard. And so the common good, so here's how I began to say, well, what would the common good say about what is a good economic system? Well, I thought about it, and I wrote a book on capitalism, confronting capitalism, because capitalism is the right system, but maybe not in the form it is. It's not in the, you remember there's a form of capitalism, which is free market capitalism, where you can do anything to make money in any way almost. So I like capitalism, but I want it to be more like Nordic capitalism, like you find in Sweden. Secondly, what does humanists think of democracy? Well, there is very strong attachment to democracy, because if we mean by democracy human rights, free speech, free assembly, then I would say, yes, let's not lose our democracies. We want those conditions because it makes people have an opportunity to realize their own potential. And then I ended up writing a book called The Common Good, to put together some measurement systems to see whether, here's what always bothered me, Deepak, most of the countries of the world want to look at one index each year to see how well they did. And that index is GDP, gross domestic product. It is very easy for gross domestic product to get higher and human happiness to get lower, and human well-being lower. For example, let's say an economy decides, oh, let's really build more weapons of destruction. We will see GDP grow up, because you're not only building all the things you need to eat and wear and have housing, but now you're adding things that, see, GDP doesn't discriminate what is being produced. It could be mass weapons. It could be cigarettes, which destroy a lot of people. It could be dope. So to the extent that GDP is producing good and bad things, it's not a good measure. We need a measure of happiness each year. Has it increased or decreased? And a measure of well-being. The two are related. We think that a person who was happier will also have more well-being. It doesn't necessarily follow. Both are a little difficult to measure, but well-being is the easier thing to measure, because you just say, how healthy are people and how much they smile, basically. So, okay. So that's just to answer your question about, again, why I got interested in humanism, that I wasn't satisfied with the measures we're using to talk about what is a good life.
Right. Yeah. In your book, you discuss various aspects of humanism. How does humanism influence your approach to marketing and business?
Very good question. It comes up in many ways. Remember, the field of economics that I am deeply in is called the marketing discipline, which is an economics discipline initially. I mean, it wasn't that sociologists talked about marketing, it was economists. Economists actually scolded marketing, said, who wants advertising? Who wants sales? Yeah, we want pure theory of the rational man making choices. All right, they were wrong about that. But marketing, as we teach it, is going to work and be successful if you are customer dedicated, customer obsessed. And now we're beginning to realize it's more than that that's needed. Not only are you trying to improve the lives of customers, you should be also using your income and wealth as a company to improve the lives of all your stakeholders in the business, particularly your employees. In fact, it's ironic. If you have unhappy employees, you're never going to be able to make happy customers. So, and if your suppliers are not happy working with you, they're not paid enough or something, they're going to make the product slower for you in arriving and do things that are not good for you. So you can see that the firm, to be successful, needs to have a humanistic orientation of wanting benefits to go to all the people that they interact with.
Yeah. In my life as a humanist, you reflect on your personal experiences. Can you share a story or experience that significantly shaped your views on humanism?
Well, I could talk about various companies that impressed me about doing a great job. In fact, there was a book out about that identified those people who loved a particular company, and all of where we found that so many people loved Disney, so many people loved Apple. When we take all of these people loving a company, you say, why? What is it about the company? And all of these companies in the study turned out to be paying very well to the employees, very low turnover. So they were, and much sustainability and thinking long run. So in a sense, I can go to specific examples and they are inspiring. Take the Patagonia company. Here's a company that should be getting us to not only wear all their jackets and their covers and shirts and so on, by saying, well, you need a new one, you need another one. Instead, they say, no, buy good apparel that will last a long time. And let's not use up our resources making things that we're going to use for a year and throw away. That's always inspiring to see that kind of love of mankind expressed by a company. And but it turns out it makes profit for the company too, to share that vision. They're a humanistic company.
Yeah. Your book touches on the role of ethics and values in business. How do you think companies can integrate humanistic values into their corporate culture?
Yes, because companies are people. I use a formula now. If a company wants prosperity, it should use the 3 Ps. First P, people. People who care and are united by a culture, a good culture in the company. So people. The second is purpose. It's people with purpose. What kind of purpose? Just making profits? No, more than that. Doing good work, creating real value, true value, not fake value, which is not delivering on what I was expecting. Let's say I buy a lawnmower. I expect it to last for 7 years because that's what the company says. It didn't. It lasted for 3 years and I needed another one. So purpose. So it's people, purpose, and planet. The 3 Ps. Because always think about, are we treating our earth well, or are we going to get warmer and warmer and end life on earth? Okay. So you can see that the idea is to basically not just have people, but people who share a common philosophy, one of which would be humanism. Now, I don't want to recruit people and say, before I can hire you, I have one last question. Are you a humanist? No, you don't put it that way to them. But you don't hire people who don't care about other people, right? Unless they have a set of knowledge about something esoteric. They're very high-tech people, and it doesn't matter. You need their high-tech. I don't have to say, are you a caring person? But generally, I would like to make my company full of people who are passionate about making the world better for everyone. Okay.
Are there any contemporary issues or trends that you believe humanism can help and address?
I began to raise a new issue I hadn't thought about earlier, and that is high tech itself and where it's going. There's a book written by, his name is Nick Bostrom, called Superintelligence. And he says that we are on our way to creating super intelligent, non-human people. Now, so you're going to ask the question, how do humanists manage, how do they hold on to their philosophy if now they're confronted not with people, not with robots that could help them as a partner? That's good. I want a robot to do some of the things I don't want to do as a partner to me. But if it's a force with its own intelligence and its own needs, can I say I want them to be a humanistic robot? To have a heart, to have compassion, to show mercy? So one question that comes up is, if we move to a world of superintelligence, and we will, it's happening, what happens to our humanism? Do we have to just destroy the machinery that we created, the Frankenstein? And it's for what? To get our humanism back, or will it even come back?
Yeah.
So,
What advice would you give to young professionals who want to incorporate humanistic values into their careers?
yes, our young people are all going to try to find a meaning to their lives. Some of them will go into business. Even then, they have to take a part of business that they would be interested in. Some of them who go into marketing, I don't worry much about their humanism. I think they're going to quickly learn that they don't belong in marketing if they are not quite humanistic. If their field is finance, they don't have much, they don't meet the customer. They just see numbers all the time. So whether they're humanistic or not, one doesn't even know. This would help young people decide what kind of field they want to be in. If some of them will want to go into human relations, the department that takes care of human matters. So I would say that we will know quickly about whether a company is to be admired or not. And you might say, well, that's going to be in the hands of the brand that they build. Building the brand is very important. Most companies use it just to describe their products. Buy our car because it looks very good. So more brands are now thinking about suggesting the values of the company. Maybe subtly or very explicitly, like the firm that says we love the environment, we don't harm it at all, we don't harm the environment. That's okay as long as it hasn't become greenwashing, namely just the assertion that they're careful about sustainability in the environment, and they ought to be exposed by those that are really seriously doing good work with the environment. So, but I'm saying your brand tells you a lot about a company, and it might tell in a genuine way what you believe the world is about and your contribution to making the world a better place. And if your brand can do that, then it's going to be a good thing for all of us.
Dr. Kotler, how do you envision the future of humanism in business and society? What changes or developments would you like to see?
Well, I think so much of it depends on what happens to our capitalism and our democracy. I'd like to see our capitalism become more humanistic capitalism. Other words have been used. Responsible capitalism, Scandinavian capitalism. What they mean by that is profits are important, but creating, not only selling a product, but creating innovations around the product. Being a company not only that makes things, but innovates in a way that new value is being created all the time. So we would say that many Swedish companies or Danish companies, etc., in that area, they're doing very well. They work around the world. They're working in India and elsewhere else. They're very profitable. But you'll notice that the countries that are regarded to be the happiest countries in the world happen to be, Finland was #1, but it's still in the top, and Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Iceland, and they're countries that have the most well-being. They're healthy people, and they are also the most educated people. So my aspiration is that humanism will show itself up in those countries and the form that we need for our economic society. The other thing I would say, with respect to democracy, I would raise the same questions about preserving free speech and free assembly and correct voting, honest voting, so that people can have confidence when they vote that it's all done right enough, and that's what the will of the people is. That's what democracy is. What is the will of the people? Okay.
Dr. Kotler, last question. You have had a significant career in marketing. How has your understanding of humanism evolved over the years, and how has it impacted your professional journey?
Well, humanism probably came back to me more clearly as I did my marketing work, and I began to think of what is good marketing and what makes it work well for people. What is my underlying philosophy? And I began to realize that it is a great love of life and people, and finding ways in which more people can be helped. For example, one of my people I admire greatly is Bill Gates. Why? Well, Bill Gates did a lot. He helped us develop Microsoft and the computer. And he himself said, how can I be more useful to others? And he does two things. First, he forms the Gates Foundation. And they've done wonderful work in India. A lot of the work now is about making sure the water people drink or swim in, isn't going to kill them, you know what I mean? And toilets are available and other things like that. So that's the Gates Foundation. The second great thing he did was called the Giving Pledge. It's starting with him and just one other billionaire, Warren Buffett, the investor. It grew to 236 billionaires signing up on giving away half of their money, either the next 10 years, to good causes, or certainly all of half of their money anyways will go upon their death. to good causes. And I even began to think India's doing well now. I'm under Modi, and so on. There are a lot of billionaires now too. And I was hoping that one of them will say to a number of the other ones, why don't we have a giving pledge? Of course, we could give to Gates's pledge. Actually, among the 236 pledgees of billionaires to Gates, giving pledge, maybe a few of them are from India already. But wouldn't it be nice? Because what happens is many of the billionaires in India do want to help. They don't thrive on seeing suffering. They're embarrassed by it too. It's just that what could one person do, even with a lot of money, with a lot of suffering people? But I would say that if you ask me where I get some of my inspiration, there are people like Gates and others that are pointing the way, because the deepest problem is this: the rich will continue to grow richer and richer, and the poor are going to stay poor and maybe poorer. That is not acceptable for society. So we've got to ask the rich, the billionaires, to make their contribution, whether it's through more taxes or through giving pledges, to do more for mankind. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kotler, for sharing invaluable insights from your life as a humanist. This book is truly transformative, has an exceptionally clear message, and present groundbreaking ideas that could revolutionize the industry. Thank you so much for having with us today.
Thank you, Deepak, for your wonderful questions, and value the opportunity. And I heard that you've interviewed a lot of other people about their ideas. So keep doing that, finding the people who have something that can inspire all of us to do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kotler.